Check, check. Thanks for joining us for tonight's School District Deliberative session on Merrimack TV. We're just waiting for tonight's meeting to start. The line for residents to register so they could vote this evening is wrapped around this room here, wrapped around the gymnasium here, the all-purpose room at James Master-Kohler Upper Elementary School. The line is significantly shorter than it was even, I'd say, less than 10 minutes ago. So I'm sure this meeting will be called to order shortly. You're watching Merrimack TV. If you haven't already, you can download the Merrimack TV app from your device's app store. Merrimack TV is available to watch from anywhere. You just go to your device's app store and download Merrimack TV. Merrimack TV is available on iPhone, Android, iPad, mobile devices, and then you can also download Merrimack TV on your TV streaming devices. So you can actually watch Merrimack TV in HD on the big screen if you have a Roku, an Apple TV, or an Amazon Fire TV device. Either of those will work just fine. And Merrimack TV not only covers nearly every elected board and committee meeting, but we also do a lot of high school varsity sports. We do high school concerts. Before we know it, it's going to be time for us to cover the high school spring concert, of course, and the cavalcade of bands and the celebration of song. We look forward to covering those events every year. We're so proud of our talented student musicians throughout the district, especially those that are featured at Celebration of Song and Cavalcade of Bands. The staff and I at Merrimack TV look forward to covering that event every year and working with the various schools' music departments as well. Tomorrow night on Merrimack TV's Education Channel and HD Channel, we will be working with Nashua ETV to bring you coverage of the boys' varsity basketball team as they enter the playoffs against Nashua High School, I believe it's South. So you'll be able to watch that on Merrimack TV, I think beginning at 6 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. A big shout out to Justin Slez, who will be on camera for that, working with Nashua ETV, and we're excited to bring you that coverage, and we say go Tomahawks. And we thank our friends in Nashua for helping us cover that. That's an away game. So again, we're just waiting for this meeting to start. We're waiting for the moderator to call the meeting to order. This room is, I'd say the room's about 70% full. I'd say it's about 70% full from my vantage point. There's bleachers to the left of me that are just off screen that maybe are a third full. And the same with bleachers off to the right of me. Tonight we have Justin Slez on camera. I'll be directing the back of the room. And back at Town Hall, bringing you the lower thirds, the graphics, the agenda items for the night is Grace LeMay. So Merrimack TV, full staff on hand for tonight's school district deliberative session. Here's a shot of the bleachers from my vantage point. So maybe about halfway full. Definitely some scattered seats on the floor. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a full house, but I'd say it's about 80%. There you go. You can see the bleachers to my left. And I must applaud the moderators and their assistants and everybody checking in residents and voters tonight did a fantastic job. I mean, the line was quite long, and they really moved it along and were of assistance to those who needed some extra assistance. So hats off to the school district moderators for accommodating residents tonight. Fantastic job. Again, I'm Nicholas LaValle, the Town of Merrimack's Media Services Coordinator, proudly bringing you our school district deliberative session live on Merrimack TV. We've done this for over 20 years, if you can believe it. I think this is but for the past few years, we've definitely streamed, and I think it's the second or third year that we bring it to you live on our app as well. Great thing about the app is you can watch from anywhere. It's in HD. And looks like the moderator is about to call to order, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. If you could please get to your seats. Oof, don't look out. All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to start. We're going to get going here. Okay. Good evening. I call this school district deliberative session to order. My name is Brian McCarthy, and I would like to have you all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have a few housekeeping items. If there is an emergency, please make note of your nearest exits, the back doors, side door here, and also out this way. Just make sure you know where that is. Fire marshal likes me to say that. Voters should have a voter card in your hand. If not, head up here and check in, because that's what you're going to be voting with if we vote tonight. Keep that card with you, and if you leave, take it with you, rip it up or whatever. Don't leave it around, please. The town deliberative session is Wednesday, March 12th, 7 o'clock right here. Election day for the town and school is April 8th, 7 o'clock to 7 o'clock at your respective polling locations. This year, Merrimack is going to be using new ballot machines. I ask you to be patient with the people next to those machines because they have a few quirks that we'll be working through. So it's not as easy as the old AccuVotes. Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But the state has also made a couple of changes to the election laws. A couple of big ones are if you don't come with an ID, we're not going to be able to take your picture and things like that. You have to have an ID with you. If you have a name or an address change, you need physical proof of that change, and a driver's license will suffice for that. All those details will be on the town website, or they're on the town website now. You can look up some more if you're really interested in them. Okay. Tonight we have 6 articles on the warrant that need to be moved to the ballot. That's our job. The ballot is what you vote on in April. As we go through each article, you get to ask details about the article and in some cases make changes to what ends up on the ballot. The state RSAs regulate what can and cannot be changed depending on the type of article that is being discussed. The school district legal counsel has summarized the can and can'ts for each article, but regardless of being able to change an article, you can ask questions about it. I'm going to quickly give a summary of what can and can't be changed, and I'll mention it as we get into the articles later. So Article 1 is the election of officers. That can't be changed. The Article 2 is gifts. That's not amendable. Article 3 is the establishment of a capital reserve fund. The dollar amount appropriated into the fund can be amended, but the balance cannot. Article 4 is the roof replacement. The dollar amount to be appropriated for the purpose of the roof replacement can be amended, but the balance cannot. Article 5, relating to the default budget. This article cannot be amended as the language is prescribed by RSAs. Article 6, relating to the Budget Committee. Wording is amendable as long as the subject matter remains the same. Article 7, the budget. The dollar amount is amendable, but the wording cannot be changed. All right. Quick summary. For each article, I am going to ask for a motion to move the article to the ballot, and someone will make that motion by raising their card and stating their name. I will ask for a second. The person does the same thing who seconds it, raises their card, and states their name. There may be people around asking for your name. We need it for the minutes, and it's a lot easier to get it down now than trying to listen to the recording later. Once the article has been moved to the ballot, we can discuss it. The article is typically written, excuse me, the article is read, and then we'll open the floor for comments. If you wish to speak, approach the microphone with your voter card. Someone there is going to record your name, again for the minutes. State your name and address, at which point you can ask a question, state an opinion, or propose an amendment. If you have a question, then an appropriate person up here will respond. If you have an amendment, I will ask for a second. And again, we're going to be doing the cards, getting the names right, okay? If you do have an amendment and it is lengthy, I request that you have it in writing, and if you need something to write it on, there's some pads of paper here. Once we have that all set, you go back to the microphone and you read your amendment. And then the floor is open to discussion of the amendment. I know this is getting long here. We then discuss the amendment. You get back up in line and you talk about whether you think it's good or bad. Again, every time you come up, your name in the card. If there are a whole bunch of people in line and you've already spoken, please go to the end of the line, allow everyone else to get a voice. Once there are no more questions or comments, there's going to be a vote on the amendment. The vote is done by, I will ask all in favor, raise your cards, put them down. All against, raise your cards, put them down. If I look out there and there's a clear majority of yes or no, either way, I call it as it is, yes or no. If there is not an obvious number, I will ask my assistant moderators to count the cards. I'm going to ask you again, hold the cards up. With people around here going to be counting the numbers. Put them down. Against, put them down. Numbers come up here and I announce the winner. I am limiting time at the microphone to 3 minutes. So if you have a 30-minute speech in your pocket, start editing. If you plan on approaching the microphone, I already mentioned that. I'm going to make a comment about secret ballots, and that if someone believes that a vote on a specific amendment should be done using the secret ballot process, I expect the time it takes to determine a yes or no on the amendment to go from about 3 or 4 minutes to 30+ minutes, okay? The process involves everyone here who wishes to vote coming up to one of my assistant moderators and getting a piece of paper after showing the voter card, marking that paper, putting it in that box. That's everyone here that wants to vote. We have to wait for that to happen. Once that's done, the boxes come up here, we open them up, and we start counting. When that's happening, nothing else is going on, okay? So you can see this in a quick count as opposed to 30+ minutes of dealing with pieces of paper. So I just needed to explain the process. It came up last year, and I don't think people understood it. So that's what's going to happen if that is suggested. When discussion is happening, please be courteous to your fellow voters and remain quiet. Please take your phone out and put it on vibrate or silent now. And at this time, I would like to recognize the school board chair, Laurie Peters, to introduce the tables.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Town of Merrimack, for coming out tonight. It is wonderful to see so many faces here. I just want to introduce the people on the platform tonight. To your left, my right, is the attorney for the school district, Allison Minutelli, Chief Education Officer, Everett Olson. To my left, Vice Chair of the School Board, Jenna Hardy, Board Member Lori Rothaus, Board Member Naomi Halter, and Board Member Ken Martin. At the end is our student representative, Finn Haddad. On the table behind me, to your right, my left, is Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Amy Doyle, Assistant Superintendent of Business, Matt Chevenel, School Clerk, Pat Heinrich, and Associate of Attorney Minutelli, Attorney Gavin Gray. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to recognize the Budget Committee Chair, Jennifer McCormick, to introduce the members of the School District Budget Committee.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Brian. If Budget Committee members would like to stand or wave when I call your name, please do. Caitlin Bernier, Mary Berry, Dan Coakley, Lee French, Gina Groff, Chuck Mower, Mackenzie Murphy, Rachel Pepke, Shannon Rand, Anthony Santiarello, Brian Trant, and Naomi Halter is our school board liaison, and Ken Martin is our alternate school board liaison. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Article 1 moves without any discussion. Article 2. Yep.
I move Article 2 to the ballot as written. Naomi
Second
Halter.
it.
Oh, that's me.
Thank you. Discussion?
This article would allow the Merrimack School Board to accept gifts of personal or real property during the year, such as land. This article appears on the ballot every year to allow the school board to accept property on behalf of the district. If this article were not approved, any non-cash donations would have to come before the voters. Approving this article does not negate public discussion by the school board, and accepting any such gifts would still require a vote of the board.
Any discussions on this article? Seeing none, this moves to the ballot as printed.
Mr. Moderator, Scott Adler, 3 Deerwood Drive. I'd like to make a motion to have Article 7 moved up to be heard in the 3rd spot.
Do I have a second? Someone stand up with your name, please. Okay, hold on. Sorry, we're just trying to get the names here. Did you get that name? Okay, we're good. Okay, so speak to.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, it's, last year was a long night, and I know that there's a lot of folks here that are very passionate about this particular article, and I think it would be best to move that up, and let's get that out of the way to move on with the evening. Thank you.
Does anyone want to comment, discuss, or ask questions about this amendment, or this change, I should say? No? All right. All those in favor of moving Article 7 to be discussed now, raise your card. Thank you. Cards down. All those opposed? That's a tough one. All right. We are now going to be discussing Article 7. And that is presented by the Budget Committee. Does that need to be seconded?
Thank you.
Okay.
Over the past 3 months, members of the Budget Committee have met with district administrators, principals, and department heads to review each section of the budget request and ask questions about the revenue and expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year. Per New Hampshire RSA, Chapter 32-1, the Municipal Budget Committee has the authority equivalent to that of a Legislative Appropriations Committee with the purpose of assisting voters in the prudent appropriation of public funds. In practice, the committee reviews the budget request from the school board and district administration and determines the bottom line budget number that is presented to the voters. The Budget Committee has no role in determining how the funds are spent. The Budget Committee meetings this season were the talk of the town and standing room only. The committee heard from community members concerned about the very real and personal impact of rising property taxes, especially the impact on seniors and others with single earner and fixed incomes. The committee heard from residents who questioned the need for another increase to the school budget, considering the trends of declining enrollment and mediocre academic outcomes. The committee heard from teachers, staff, and parents concerned about supporting public education, who cited a decrease in state funding as a driver for the increased burden on Merrimack taxpayers. The result? The school district operating budget for fiscal year 25-26 that has been approved by the Budget Committee to put forward to the voters is $96,823,198. In the event that the electorate votes not to pass the proposed budget, the default budget has been calculated as $95,808,066. Although the proposed budget of $96,823,198 was approved by a majority of the Budget Committee, it was not a unanimous vote. 8 members of the committee voted in favor, 4 opposed, and 1 abstained. The Budget Committee's split 8-4-1 vote demonstrates that after careful review and analysis, nearly half of the committee held a dissenting opinion on the proposed budget number to put forward to the ballot for voters to decide. And with that, I motion that we move
Article 7.
Article 7 to the ballot.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All set? All right, thank you. Would anyone like to discuss Article 7?
Hi, Virginia Heel, 3 Pondview Drive. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the budget from $96,823,198 to $93,700,000.
Do I have a second? You got that? Do you have?
Yeah.
Good? Hold on.
You?
I'm sorry, the second? I don't have the second. Say your name again, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Floor is
In
yours.
the 23-24 school year, the school district only expended $85,778,265. To make it easy tonight, let's round it up to 86 million for easy numbers. So yes, 86 million. Now they're asking for nearly $97 million. The voters rejected the budget last year, and the district had to accept the default budget of $91 million. Add in the second year of contracts and insurance increases for $2.4 million, and you have a budget of $93.7 million. The school district builds in millions in surplus every year. Let's be clear, this is not a cut. This is a reduction on the money that won't be spent anyway. The school budget committee was split on the proposed budget, and a vote was forced. The voters just need an opportunity to have a choice between what some would consider too much and way too much. Let's put a real choice on the ballot for voters to choose from.
All right, so we are now going to be discussing the amendment to change the bottom line of Article 7 to $92,700.
93 million.
93, sorry. Sorry. If you wish to speak on this, please come up.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. My name is Heather Robitaille, 45 Springfield Circle, and I would like to speak in opposition of the motion to make this for the amendment. We had to go to default last year, and it required programs that were highly valued by our community members to be cut. It required reduction in staff. This will absolutely be a cut because it is not taking into consideration the amount that has to be budgeted for positions that as of yet are not filled. And yes, that money will go back to be used to offset the budget next year, but it needs to be included. So you will lose things like sports, you will lose co-curricular programs, and things that we have heard from this community are incredibly important, valuable, and necessary for our students and their development. So I am opposed to this because it is a cut. It will have very negative effects on our students' education, on the progress that this board has made, and on the success that our students can have going forward in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Thomas. I live here in Merrimack on Wildcat Falls Road. I am opposed to this motion. I'm one of the state reps for the town. If you are upset with your property taxes, and I am upset with my property taxes, I live here, and my taxes have gone up just like everybody else's, then you need to contact your state representatives and your senator, because they are the ones that are pushing forward this budget. Thank you. And I am one of your reps. You can talk to me. What is happening with the state budget is that they are downshifting the cost to the towns. The state is not paying the full price for our public schools. The state is estimated on paying $100 million for that education voucher scheme. The removal of the interest and dividends tax, it benefits 10% of the people, of the wealthiest people in New Hampshire, and we have to cover the $189 million that is a result of that tax for 10% of the people. We keep cutting essential services through our state budget, and guess what? Essential services are called essential services because they are essential, and we are the ones. We are the ones that are going to have to pay for those services. We still have to take care of our seniors. We have to feed the hungry. We have to house the people. We will willingly do this, but we are asking the state to do their fair share. So what you need to do, the state budget is coming up. You need to contact every single one of your elected officials, and you need to let them know what's on your mind. And you want lower taxes through the state, not through the town, not cutting our school budget. Thank you.
Max Abramson, 15 Jostin Drive. I served as a legislator also a few years ago, and this came up in the legislature, and this question is not, this question of whether or not to reenact a partial state sales tax or state income tax or other state level taxes isn't in front of the voters in April. The question is simply, you know, how much is enough? And what I'm hearing from people is the property taxes in town are getting to be too much. It's not just $1,000 a year for the average house. It's $600 to $700, per month, $1,000 a month. Love it if it were $1,000 a year. But if it were, it's $600 or $700 a month in additional costs added to everyone who rents on average, and the rental costs are getting to be exorbitant. And it's not just that we have older folks and disabled folks and people on fixed incomes who are losing their homes. We have people who are in apartments and condos who cannot afford all of the taxes and the bills that just keep coming in and the rising cost of rent. I don't agree with the idea that we should just expect the state to find another way to reach into our pocket with another sales tax or excises or state income tax or hidden business taxes or anything else. I think that that's a mistake. So I support this amendment. I think that it's a step in the right direction. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bridget Boyle. I live at 37 Greatstone. I have been a citizen of Merrimack since I moved to New Hampshire 20 years ago. I'm from a very big city. It was different learning to live here, learning to deal with budgets, having to know my people, because I'm from a really crowded city. My third child is autistic. She was here tonight. She wanted to vote in favor, but she's out of spoons. And if you don't know what that means, it means her ability to deal with stuff happening in a day is done. I stand here today to speak on behalf of the budget and allowing the Budget Committee to make these decisions because without the education she received at Merrimack, the child she was at 8 years old, unable to read, unable to sit still for 5 minutes, would not be able to be graduating as a senior this year in the class of 2025. And it is solely through the efforts of her team, her parents, the psychologists that we are fortunate enough to be able to pay for, and the school system. And they were so important in holding our hands and learning how to deal with an autistic child. Right now, there is a Saoirse in first grade. Without these essential services that this budget calls for, she will be a statistic. And by statistic, I mean drugged out or suicidal, because she won't get the support she needs. The state is crippling us by pulling back their numbers. And unfortunately, our budget's larger than we want. But this is not the budget to cut. These are our future citizens, and we need them to be functional. They become functional through public schools, especially when other people can't afford private education. Please consider every citizen, even those who are not eligible to vote, when you make these decisions. Your taxes might be hard now, but imagine if we have to build a prison because we didn't have enough special services, or a music program to get through to our child. This is a critical time, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit of a klept, but this is a critical juncture. I'm hurting for taxes too, but I'd rather take it in other areas, not our educational budget. I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm Melissa Penson-Bessa. I'm from 14 Northwood Drive in Merrimack. I just wanted to focus in on what the first person said when they were bringing up this amendment about mentioning that the budget had a surplus. The public education system has never been a profit-making endeavor. There's never a surplus. I know every parent here begins the school year with a list of supplies that they have to buy for the school, and they have to buy for their kids, and we have to buy throughout the school year because they run out of supplies. And I know the teachers are buying their own supplies. The special eds are buying their own supplies. There is no surplus within the school district. And if we're concerned about the kids that we're putting out, and we're concerned about our test scores, we need to have the appropriate environment for them to learn in. And part of that appropriate environment, unfortunately, is the school budget as it is proposed within here. We can't cut from the school any further than it's already been cut. So, nothing further.
Thank you.
Robbie Reisman, 8 Iris Drive.
You have your card?
Excuse me. Oh,
Sorry. Thank you.
said you threw me off.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to speak against the amendment to the budget and sort of reiterate what the first speaker, Heather Robitaille, said. Any cut to the budget is going to have an impact. We did lose some programs last year when we went to the default budget. I know that my child connects with some very critical programs, and I would hate to think that my child or any other child could lose a program that connects with them, that makes a difference in their life, that may, help propel them towards the future, may just make a huge difference maker in their outcome. I also want to mention that I know that we've just started making some progress towards some of our test scores, and I would hate to lose that momentum. And just also that, again, I know that our teachers and our staff are doing a phenomenal job, and I want to make sure we don't lose anybody and that we're able to maintain our momentum. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to the amendment?
Shelley Usinski, 3 Forest Drive.
Go ahead, you're good.
Oh, okay. I'm here to speak in favor of the amendment, and I just want to give a little historical information. I moved here to Merrimack maybe 36 or 38 years ago, and during the 80s, we had a major financial downturn. And our town at that time was very united. And it was a miraculous thing that happened. And we didn't have SB2 in deliberative session, but we did have the votes in a meeting like this. And during that time, the financial system in our country was in serious trouble, very similar to what is happening now. And that year, the teachers, all the staff, the police department, and the fire department all decided that they weren't going to take their raise that year to help the people in the town. And it was a beautiful thing. And people were so united. It was just so wonderful that people were just so united. So I wanted to give that historical, and people could look it up. I don't quite remember the year, but it was during the late 80s when there was a real bad downturn in the financials. And we're experiencing that now. Our electricity bills are up 20 or 30%. Gas is up much more than that, to heat our homes, and it's been a cold winter. There's been a lot of expenses that have been laid upon the people that live in this town that is going to force a lot of people out of their homes. And I really hope that this town will come together and realize that the taxpayers are really under stress, and they need help. And by pushing these exorbitant budgets, we're not united, and it's not helping. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chuck Mower. I live at 4 Depot Street. I am your town historian, and I will tell you that I have different memories. I can't imagine why we would eat our seed crop. Our children are the most important and valuable thing we possess. Henry David Thoreau turned to the selectmen of Concord, Massachusetts, and he said, "Where would you put your money? The schoolhouse, the jailhouse, or the almshouse? It would be better to build a bridge over the Gulf of Ignorance than another bridge over the Concord River."
Hi, I'm Pauline Parent, 18 Davis Road. I didn't expect to speak today. I really didn't. My daughter went to the school. She graduated about 8 years ago. She was in special needs. She got physical, occupational, and help with everything. She is currently a graduate of SNU, magna cum laude. And that would not have been possible, obviously without good parents, but also the teachers and the therapists and everybody who helped her, because she also had rheumatoid arthritis too. So she had so many challenges. And I'm speaking obviously against, and there is no more important value in a society than teaching its children. And we should not ever take that for granted. Now, I struggle too. I'm a caregiver. I don't make a lot of money. I've lived here for over 24 years. My husband works a physical job. We struggle. But for our children, I would continue to struggle, because that is our future.
Molly Azatia, 7 Chestnut Circle. I am speaking to oppose this. Proud paraeducator in the Merrimack School District. I just want to speak on behalf of the fact that I've watched parents of students that I have personally taken care of come up here tonight and speak. We can't dismantle our school system. I love that back in the 80s, everybody could give their raise or their income to somebody else. That's wonderful. I'm a mom with 2 boys that I put through the Merrimack School District. One of them is a junior this year. I work 3 jobs because I love my job as a paraeducator. Not because... And it's not because I want to work 3 jobs. I do my job because I want to see the children of our future succeed in any way that that looks for those students. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jack Lavati of 77 Century Way, and just to put some of the numbers in perspective, the school budget is 2/3 of the town budget. The school budget is $93 million for roughly 3,600 students. That's over $25,000 per student. Trinity High School is under $15K. Bedford Academy is grades K through 5. That's under $14K, including lunch. Those are the competitive numbers that we have to get this $26K down to. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Hollis McGuire, 67 Wilson Hill Road in Merrimack. And I certainly didn't expect to speak tonight, and I'm not going to make a lot of friends, but I am in support of the amendment. I'm speaking for seniors. I don't have a second, third job. I do work part-time. I'm in my 70s. I'm working part-time still. I would love to retire. My biggest bill is my property tax. I live in a little ranch. I downsized on a very small piece of land, and this is still my biggest bill every month. The exemption doesn't work. We don't have pensions anymore. Maybe part of the problem is revising the senior exemption, because seniors are just not able to pay these bills, and we're going to have to leave the town. I believe in education, but I also want the choice to be able to stay in Merrimack. Thank you.
Hi, Bonnie Dunham. I live at 16 Wren Court, and I'm speaking in opposition to the amendment. I want to reiterate what Representative Wendy Thomas said when she said we need to make the state responsible for paying their share. And it's not a matter of raising taxes, having a sales tax, income tax. It's a matter of stopping things like throwing away money on vouchers. That's what needs to happen. Cutting a school budget may seem attractive. We'll save a few pennies here and there, but we can't afford to throw away this generation of children, and that's what will happen.
Hi, I'm Barbara McCormick, 43 Island Drive. I also am a senior, and the property tax is just devastating to us seniors that are on a fixed income. It's just ridiculous, the amount. 74% of our taxes go towards school. And I'm just in favor of lowering the budget, and thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Butterlick. I'm at 27 Newton Street. I'd just like to speak to the comment about the other two schools and their budgets as being significantly lower than ours. Those are schools that do not require special services the way the public schools do. And furthermore, for those people who aren't aware, children in private schools who are receiving special services are receiving those services through our town, and we're still paying for those services. So that's really an apples and oranges comparison, and is grossly unfair. Thank you.
If you feel you want to speak, you can line up. You don't have to wait for the other person to finish. Speed things up here a little bit.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to speak. Karen Mortimer, 5 Everest Drive in Merrimack. I'm in opposition of this. It's absolutely a cut. You can call it what you want. It's a cut. I have a son who is very involved in the special education program. Having a son in special ed, I work closely with a lot of you, the teachers. This whole wall is staff here, the paras out here. The work that you guys did to put into the budget, I think it's disrespectful for someone to stand up and just yell out a number, not having any idea where the impact is. We've seen the Budget Committee try to make special education. Members of the Budget Committee have continued to make threats against special education, and it tells me how ignorant they are to the inner workings of the budget, and how much of your experience goes into creating the budget. So very much in opposition of this. Thank you guys for everything you do.
Anyone else like to speak to the amendment? again, if you could please just come up and get in line and speed things up a little bit.
Hi, Marie Berry, 50 Marty Drive, and I am a member of the Budget Committee, although I'm not speaking on behalf of the Budget Committee, but I would like to just speak to the previous speaker's comment. The Budget Committee, I don't recall threats to special education. I think that speaking for myself now, I will say I looked very, very closely at the budget. I did not
Please, everyone.
I did not arrive at a number that would support this amendment. So I'll just say that. But I think most of all of the Budget Committee understood that a free and appropriate public education is every student's right, and that that is something that should not be cut. And I feel strongly that way myself. So I would disagree with the previous speaker. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Greg DeRosa. I work 8 Cortland Drive, Merrimack, New Hampshire. I feel for everybody here, okay? I appreciate that, the school committee is trying, to balance, have the budget for the students. I appreciate that. However, the last 2 years, I've been here since 2005. The last 2 years, I've seen my taxes go up almost 18%. Now, I'm getting close to retirement. I can't afford to live here anymore. I love this town. I appreciate, what you guys are doing, okay? But there's got to be a better way to do this. I thought when we had all of these new developments building up in this town that are rental properties, that our taxes will go down. So for the last 2 years, I figured, maybe they're going to go down. No, I've seen them go up substantially in the last 2 years. We have all of these students now that are in these apartments that we've been overdeveloped, and now they're going to schools, and now we have a problem because now we have too many students coming into the school that we don't have money for. And I'm trying to survive here. If I asked you for, if I asked for a pay raise for 2 years for 18%, you'd laugh at me, okay? And I'm in favor of this amendment.
Hi, Karen Mortimer again at 5 Everest Drive. I just had to come back. I was the previous speaker that Marie was talking about. I don't think I need to repeat the words that were said about special education, but there absolutely was an attempt at cutting special education. There was more time spent discussing cuts to special education than there were to any other line item. So I would, again, just stress that budget cuts are one thing, but keep your hands off special education, please. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Motel from 27 LA Drive. Just want to make a quick comment before I present a motion. Is that okay?
You can't present a motion until this one's voted on.
I was going to actually motion to call this discussion on this.
There's someone behind you, so we'll wait for...
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yep.
well, then I'll just make a comment then.
Yep.
I just want to say that I oppose this amendment. First, I have 3 boys, 2 of which are seniors. One has graduated through the Merrimack School District. If you know my boys, they're all 3 different boys. A couple of them are more academic. One is not as much and benefited from the sports parts of the school, and because of that, he has excelled and is going on to college and playing football in college, and I could not be more proud. I work as a paraeducator at Reed's Ferry School, and part of what drives me is to be just like the people that have supported my son throughout the years,
And this is what benefits our community. It benefits our society to have well-educated children and successful adults that go out into our community. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Robert Frost. I've lived in Merrimack on 17 Silverdale Lane for almost 40 years. I'm retired, had a good job, and luckily I got a pension out of it, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to afford my house here in Merrimack. My children, I have 2 children, both went to Merrimack schools their whole lives. Some of them got special help. And I don't understand how this budget at its top rate is going to help them at all, because they are still living in my home, okay? Because they cannot afford to go out and get an apartment even together in this world today. So I support this amendment because I have to still support my children when I shouldn't have to. I moved into this town, I paid $1,375 for taxes for a year. My taxes are almost $8,500 now. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Do kids deserve education? Yes, they do. They absolutely do. But my kids can't go out and do anything because they got an education and now they can't afford to rent an apartment even in one of these new big chicken coops they put up out here. Okay? That's what they are. They're nothing but a big chicken coop. They brought more kids to these schools, and now the people like me who are seniors need to try to support that. It's impossible. I am going to lose things that I have worked my entire life for. The town needs to smarten up. The people in this town need to smarten up when it comes to raising taxes to this point. I am supporting this amendment.
Hi, Heather Robitaille again, 45 Springfield Circle. I would just like to say, I would argue that we are united in that we all agree our property taxes are too high. And I don't want to see seniors or anyone else pushed out of their homes. But I also don't believe that we should be making detrimental cuts that are negatively going to impact our children's future. They are our leaders, they are going to be our caregivers, and they deserve to have the support to reach their highest educational potential. Unfortunately, there was a narrative that was allowed to dominate the budget discussion this season based on a desire to cut our budget and dismantle our schools, led by someone who publicly testified against our school district and what it teaches. This narrative contained inaccurate and misleading information that was hand-calculated, either based on a misunderstanding, lack of experience, or understanding of the complexities and legal requirements of the budget. There was a budget video put together by our administration, and the views that it received are less than the number of people in this room. There are a number of good questions about where this money is going and how it's going to be used, and I would encourage everyone to watch that video. Our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Matt Chevanel, mentioned in the video how we are receiving significantly less money from the state than we did in the 90s. So not even keeping up with inflation, but significantly less, and costs are rising. So why are our taxes high? Because our state is neglecting to take care of the responsibility, and we are forced to shoulder it. So do we need a change? Absolutely. I agree we do, and we need to encourage and put pressure on our state representatives, many who are in this room tonight, to have the state take care of their constitutional responsibility to fund public education in New Hampshire adequately, and I oppose this motion to try to cut our students' future by reducing the budget here in our town.
Hi, Richard Foote, 129 Indian Rock Road. You know, it's nice to want for your children and everything. A lot of people that have children, it's great to have them and everything. But you have to come to sort of reality. You can't expect everyone, if there's people up here who say they can't afford to pay their taxes anymore because they're too high for them, you can't expect to talk to these people and say, well, tough luck, you have to keep paying your taxes because my child has to do better in school. Your child is great, but you have to work with the school board and tell them you have to come up with a budget that people can afford. Taxes are just too high, and you can't tell the state, well, it's the state's fault. It's their problem. They should do more. What should the state do for more money for the state? Tax the people in town? Oh, that's right. The taxes all of us. So how does that help at all? Whether the tax comes from the state or from the town, either way, people need money. They can't afford to pay for things. Everyone wants their programs, but no one can figure out how to pay for them. Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Hilliard from 17 Friar Tuck Court, and I would like to call this question.
All right, the amendment is the dollar figure for Article 7 to be lowered to $93,700,000. All those in favor of lowering, raise your card. Thank you. Please put your card down. Thank you. All those opposed? Amendment fails. Okay, hold on. We are now back to discussing Article 7 as printed.
I support the article as printed.
Are there any other comments or discussions on Article 7? Seeing none, the article moves to the ballot as printed.
Excuse me. I make a motion to restrict reconsideration on that agenda item.
I second.
Hold on, please. Hold on. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thanks,
Ken.
Okay. What this means is that this will not come up later in the evening. Okay? All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes. We are now moving on to Article 3.
I moved.
Hold on a sec. Can we still have a meeting here? Thank you. Go ahead.
I move to move Article 3 to the ballot.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Lori, second. Go ahead. Hold on. Can we please keep conversations down? Thank you.
The current superintendent's office and special services building were built in 1960s and have served us well over the past few years. This article begins the process of planning for their replacement by establishing a capital reserve fund, a recommendation by the town of Merrimack voters last year for the purpose of providing a new combined facility. This article only establishes the reserve fund of up to $500,000 and is not considered an approval of the project in future years, nor does it establish a recurring amount going into a fund in future years. The replacement of the current superintendent and special offices buildings has been on the capital improvement plan for over 2 decades. Recently, both buildings have failed the recent fire marshal inspection, life safety inspections, and are out of ADA compliance. Those inspections were performed by the Town of Merrimack Fire Department. This warrant article has no new tax impact.
Anything else? Okay. Any discussion on Article 3?
Thank you. Chris Christensen, 27 Great Stone Drive. I'm the chairman of the trustees of trust funds, which, if this article passes, we would have custody of the funds until the expenditure occurs, which could be 20 years from now. I support capital reserve funds. The town and the MVD both use capital reserve funds to great advantage for when we have long-term expenditures. Well, the most recent one I think that people can think of is a little over $2 million for a fire truck. And we had that money in savings, so there wasn't a big bump in the tax rate, and we didn't have to bond something that was only going to last, 20 years or so. So I think the capital reserve funds are a big benefit to keeping the tax rates level for those items. I will disagree a little bit when you say that there's no impact on the tax. There's no impact on the school district tax. But if you give less surplus back to the town to be applied to the tax rate, there's a couple of pennies there that's going to make a difference. So in any event, I favor the use of the capital reserve fund. By the way, the capital reserve funds are all invested in government guaranteed securities. We're making about 3.5–4% on them right now, and I expect that to continue in the future. So it's a good savings plan with a little bit of gain to it as well.
Thank you.
Timothy Tenhay, 5 Windy Hollow Circle. I've got a question. I, being a former town councilor, are well aware of how these work and certainly appreciate the fact that the school district is moving forward and adopting this sort of a philosophy for capital expenditures that we're going to have to incur no matter what. But it speaks to $500,000 coming out of surplus. Do we have an idea, given the fact that we're running this year on a default budget, of what that surplus would look like right now? Can you project the overall surplus?
Okay, now I can go ahead. Wow, that was something here. I feel like Darth Vader. Last year we had a $3.6 million surplus. I'm hoping, when we build a budget, we build it as best as we can, given the knowledge we have. We take all the staff, we bump them up, and those are staff that are in place a year and a half in advance of operationalizing and completing this budget. So sometimes you have a natural surplus that builds up because you're taking people who already exist. So I'm looking at having another $3.6 million this year, hopefully.
I see. So you're looking at $500,000 out of a $3.6 million.
Yeah, and you're probably looking at 10 cents on the rate, because then that's $50 on a $500,000 house or something like that.
No, just was curious.
But in the construct of the RSA that the warrant article gives us, it does make mention of no amount to be raised from new taxation.
Yes.
That's the caveat. I was thinking I'll be honest with you, I was thinking like you too, that the money coming out, there's going to be a little less surplus, but the statute changed the wording of the warrant article at some point in time when I was not looking, to state no amount to be raised from new taxation.
Yep. Understood. No, I just wanted to make sure that I understood where we are today and
Yeah.
where we're going to be and what that dollar amount
That's what
really
we're
means.
hoping. You know,
Okay.
we try every time we go to save and to kind of put efficiencies in the current year operation so we can reduce the school portion of the tax rate by X amount. If we don't need to spend it, we're not going to spend it. And that has been the philosophy for 20, 30, 40 years in this district. Thank you very much, Tim.
Anyone else? Seeing none, it moves as printed. Article 4.
I would like to make a motion that we move Article 4 to the ballot as
Thank
written.
you. Second?
Motion.
Yep. Okay, we're all set on that. Go ahead.
Okay. Article 4, I'm just going to read the article, reads, "Shall the district raise and appropriate the sum of $823,230 for the purpose of roof replacement at James Mastercola Elementary School and James Mastercola Upper Elementary School." The Merrimack School District is responsible for over 11 acres of roofs, and this section of roof replacement is part of our multi-year roof replacement plan. This article seeks to replace 19,000 square feet of roof at James Mastercola Upper Elementary School and Mastercola Elementary School that are 15 years off warranty and are actively leaking. The consequences of not replacing the roof at this time could be deck rot, the potential for mold in classrooms, and/or damage to the gym floor, causing damage and usability issues. We have tried patching these leaks as best we can over the last year to no avail. We must pass this article to ensure that the current issue does not become an emergency that cannot be repaired in a controlled fashion during the summer of 2025. An emergency repair during the school year would cause unnecessary disruption to school operations that would be problematic. The roof to be installed, if approved by the voters, will have a 45-year warranty.
Thank you. Any discussion on this article?
Max Abramson, 15 Jostin Drive. It's actually more of a question. I went through the documentation on this after the Budget Committee meeting, and it looked like the roofs, the flat roofs, were being done by Garland. Is that true?
We put
Garland Roofing Company?
We put these out to bid. Garland has the product that we're looking for. They're not the sole source on it, but they meet the specification. And the actual bidders who bid on it are independent contractors. During this season right here, we have 6 bidders. Anywhere from, I'm not going to give you their names, but we do have a winning bidder. So the manufacturer of the roof is Garland, and the bidders come from all over the country to bid for this every single year. It's a multi-level roof. It's just not a membrane. It's a built-up roof with insulation factors. It's a complex kind of 45-year warranty structure. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yeah. Can I just make a point of information?
Sure.
When I was on the Seabrook Budget Committee, I had also talked to some of the janitors, and they'd used the Garland Roof Company, and then I did some more background research. They were, at the time, I don't know if this has changed or not, they were under indictment and investigation by the states of California and Ohio, and they were not actually putting, I'm sorry, they were not actually putting these out to competitive bid at the time. Garland Roof Company was selecting their own subcontractors to apply the roof at that time. And the 40-year warranty that they were offering the Seabrook School District wasn't a warranty, it was a 40-year high-price service agreement. And they had some of their officials investigated and I believe prosecuted for alleged bribery of school board officials. So I just want to give some background on that.
Yeah.
So that
See,
there's some
we
investigation.
put that out, the Merrimack School District puts it out to bid. We specify a product like Garland, and then the bids come into us and we open them. Garland has no say in who we pick as far as the installer goes. And it is a 45-year full warranty. I like to kind of joke around a little bit saying, once you put a roof on that we're doing recently, you're never going to hear me talk about it again because I'm going to be across the street in the Last Rest Cemetery.
Well, I just want to say that we did the first 3 sections with the Garland Roof Company.
Yes, sir.
And when I talked to the janitors on my own, I was still on the budget committee, but I was talking to them as a private citizen, and they had already had a leaky roof within, I think, like 2 years. And the 40-year warranty wasn't a warranty at all. We as the taxpayers had to pay to do the fixing.
Okay, thank you. I understand what you're saying.
Richard Foot, 129 Indian Rock Road. So my question is more of a, well, I guess some numbers. All in favor of fixing roofs and windows and doors and driveways and all that stuff. Obviously, all needs to be all upkept and fixed and everything. My question is more of, the thing says, want to raise money for this and appropriate the sum for this. My understanding is that you're saying right now we want to raise $500,000 for this or $800,000 for this. My question is when you say raise that, do you mean we're going to raise money for the roof, the windows, the driveway, whatever else we're going to raise money for, in one lump sum, like I say, a bond? So we're paying that off over years, not going to say, okay, we'll raise $500,000 this year to pay for that?
Well, the warrant articles, the raise and appropriate, the way things are constructed, that's standard Department of Revenue Administration wording. So yeah, when you say raise and appropriate, we're going to pay for it all in 1 year.
Okay, so that's going to be like you could buy, you're going to owe 1 year. So wouldn't it be better to combine them all into one and get a bond for that? So we're paying it over the years. If you pay $500,000 today, the people that have children in school today are paying for that. The children that come next year and the year after that and the year after that are not paying for that, and they're getting the benefits of that. If you get a bond and you're paying for it over, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, whatever the length of time that bond would be, everyone's paying for it right along as it's going there, and you're not dumping that all on everybody and saying, okay, everyone right here today, you get the benefit of paying $800,000 or $500,000 or whatever else we got to repair this year. Everyone's getting that, as opposed to spreading it out over a time frame where everyone in that time frame that has children in the school system are paying for it instead of just the children, the parents of today.
Yeah, as a matter of good financial practice, I don't think I would do a bond for a deposit into a capital reserve account. Those are just to be raised and appropriated and given over to the trustees of trust funds. For a roof that's under $1 million, I'd be hesitant to do a bond for, especially with the interest rates they are right now. A few years ago, we did a $4 million bond for a lease purchase agreement for ventilation. We put 72 ventilators in these schools to get fresh air into the classrooms to reduce the CO2 levels. And at that point in time, that 10-year lease purchase agreement with a non-appropriation clause was at 1.9%. So it made sense then. Now with the interest rates and the bond rates, what they are, I don't think it makes sense to put a bond out for $800,000. But that's just my opinion. That's the opinion of the board.
Right, well, you guys say combine a bunch of things into one, so it's a bond for
I know exactly what you're saying, sir. Yes.
All right, I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Heather Robitaille, 45 Springfield Circle. Just for those of you who may not be aware, there are buckets currently catching the leaks from the roofs that are being proposed to be replaced. So as you're attending basketball games or kids are trying to have gym, the roof is leaking, and it's really critical that this gets passed, because if we are forced to wait to an emergency, then we're looking at increased costs, disruption to the school year, disruption to our children's classes. And Matt, you mentioned in the video about the no means no rule. Can you speak to that for the
group?
Yeah,
there's a statute there when you have a warrant article for a specific purpose or subject matter. If the warrant article gets voted down, no means no. Hence, you cannot go into your operating budget, find the money, and make the stated repair. So if the warrant article were to fail and the roof failed and it was a catastrophic event, we could not go into our operating budget and utilize some of the potential savings that we have acquired over the year to fix the roof. The roof stays and the roof leaks.
Which would then subject us to risks of rot and mold and
Correct.
other
And
increased
deck
costs.
rot, because all these roofs have a corrugated, roof deck on top of the roof and everything like that, held up by steel bar joists. Not what you see over here with this kind of antique-looking section of the building here, but it is steel, so it would happen, yes.
Thank you. I support this as written, based on the fact that I think we can all agree our children and our staff deserve to be in a school that's not leaking or at risk of mold. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot my card.
I'm a stickler.
Shannon Rand, 1 Blair Road. Just a question for you, Matt. Sorry, not getting off the hook yet.
It's all right, Shannon.
Is there a law that says that we have to listen to the no clause? Like, is there something that's preventing us from being able to use that money? Like, seriously, is there a law in the book that says we can't?
There was something, I just remember
being looked at.
Allison, you're getting your $200 an hour right now, okay? But it is, there is the no mean no law, right, Pat? There is a no mean no law where you can't get it from someplace else. And while she's looking, a donation maybe, and if she's looking it up, I will say one thing about the roof program. That's been going on for a number of years.
yeah.
Tom Tussaud is the most awesome, and Mike Dumais, who's around here too, facilities director that we have in the entire state of New Hampshire. Tom gets up there. Yes, thank you. Tom and Michael have been on those roofs, walking them every single year, 2-3 times a year, to look for faulty patches and everything like that. They have a roofing program that goes out a good 25-30 years. And in around a 4-year period, we're going to have a 10-year gap where we do not have to do a roof.
Oh, yeah.
And during that period, along the lines of what Mr. Christensen was saying, would be a perfect opportunity for us to start a capital reserve roof account like we used to have back in the old days, which we depleted and never replenished.
Yeah.
So
my question again stands. What is the law that states that we're not allowed to use funds that we...
I bought you some time, Allison,
There you go.
so go for it.
I'll let you answer. Go ahead.
It's RSA 32.8. It's part of the municipal budget law, and
that law can't be changed.
Not here. No.
Unless not here. Yeah.
So it's through the state. I'm just curious.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion on Article 4? Seeing none, it moves to the ballot as printed.
Good.
Article 5. Do we have the petitioner here?
Rebecca Woodman, 3 Dwyer Street.
You'd like to move the,
I move that the Article 5 be placed on the ballot.
do I have a second? Name, please?
Shelley.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder, it was mentioned at the very beginning. The language of this warrant article is written in RSA 4014-B. Any language taken directly from an RSA cannot be amended. Currently, the administration, with the approval of the school board, determines the proposed budget and the default budget. The Budget Committee has only one focus. The Budget Committee, therefore, allows the Budget Committee, this bill of RSA, allows the Budget Committee to determine the default budget is both wise and prudent. It is the Budget Committee's responsibility to ask questions and carefully review both the proposed budget and the default budget. Since the RSA allows delegating the determination of the default budget to the Budget Committee, we, as voters, have the assurance of transparency and oversight on the default budget. Thank you.
Anyone like to discuss Article 5?
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Heather Robitaille, 45 Springfield Circle. First, I want to thank all our Budget Committee members for serving our community on the committee. I know it is a lot of work. It is a lot of hours. I have had the pleasure of serving with some of you, and I appreciate all of you for stepping up and being part of this process. I am against this article because what happens is the school budget committee, they're members who are elected who do not necessarily have the professional expertise and experience in creating the budget. This default budget is a set calculation, and throughout the course of the budget conversations in this committee, we've heard them question whether or not textbooks are something that should be included in the default budget. We've had questions about whether or not staff contractual raises that were approved by voters need to be included in our budget. And I know that the learning curve is steep. It is really steep, especially in your first year. But I believe that if we leave the default to the budget committee, we're opening ourselves up to a significant amount of risk if the default is calculated and it actually is lower than the legal and contractual obligations that we have. I have a question for our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Matt Chevenel, about the risk. What would happen if the default we were forced to go to left us short of our obligations?
Well, if it left us short, then we'd have to go for a deficit appropriation. In order to get a deficit appropriation, you have to get approval from the Commissioner of Education. And then once you get an approval from the Commissioner of Education, then you have to put it on the ballot to raise the extra money. And that would come a year in the future to do that. That wouldn't come at the same year that the deficit is happening. Hopefully you could anticipate it enough to do it, but that would be something that would have to be voted on again. So if the default budget was calculated, and I try and be as conservative as I can, I follow the law. I've been around since 1990, before SB2 really hit. I was aware when the conversations around the default budget were being had by elected officials. I know the premise behind the default budget. I know the items that should be in there and they shouldn't be in there. I take a look at labor contracts that were voted on, and if the actual cost of those labor contracts are less than what was voted on, I put the lesser of the number in. So I do nothing to artificially inflate this default budget, nor I can't understand why people would think it would be to the benefit of myself personally to do such. So that's what we try and do. We're honest, we lay it out there, and we try and do it the way it legally obligated to do. And if we were saddled with a default budget which was less than what met our needs, let's say this year, right? Health insurance went up 10%. That was $1.2 million right in the default budget. If the budget committee decided, well, you know something, I think we're not going to hire any more married teachers. We're going to hire only single teachers. Therefore, we're only going to get single plans as opposed to family plans or two-person plans, and we're going to save money. So that $1.2 million that you calculated based upon your current census of people is only going to be $500,000, and they put $500,000 in there. And then what happens comes true. So you could become short if those chances were taken.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that and the work that you do with that. And the default budget, we are audited, so this is a process that does have oversight. I am against this article because I believe that there is already a set of checks and balances with the default being calculated by our school board, and our budget committee being in charge of looking at the operating budget.
Could I make a small modification on that?
You certainly may.
The default budget is presented to the Department of Revenue Administration. They look at it to make sure that what is on the warrant article is what is presented in the default budget. There is no forensic audit by our auditors of the default budget. We get audited every single year, and we've had perfect audits for 20-something years, even before I got here. It's just not me that's had perfect audits. I just want to let you guys know. And nothing is really audited by the auditors. It's a number that we come up with. It's gone over with the school board. It was gone over with the budget committee a number of times, and it's something that is just not subject to the waste, fraud, and abuse portion of our annual audit like our financials are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I support leaving it in the hands of the experts.
Hi, Joanne Grobecker, 27 Craig Drive. I want to thank administration and the school board and the budget committee. It would be really dangerous, in my opinion, for the budget committee to control the default budget. Right now, having administration and the school board create the default budget, having the budget committee decide on the operating budget, having us all decide here at Deliberative on the operating budget that goes to the ballot keeps that checks and balances in place. Some of this year's budget members had questions asking if we could put out a no vacancy sign for special education. They accused administration of teaching anti-racism and CRT through our curriculum. They motioned to throw budget books on the floor and actually voted on throwing their budget books on the floor. They spent time debating using a homemade spreadsheet instead of the budget books and the spreadsheet provided by administration. And I just am not in favor of the budget committee deciding the default when so much is at stake. We have teachers, we have paras, we have children in these buildings, and they deserve the due diligence of a default budget that can provide for a free and appropriate public education.
There we go.
Max Abramson, 15 Jostin Drive. So I did, as I said before, I did serve on my town's budget committee. I also served on my regional school district budget committee, but I also served in the state legislature, and this issue did come up as to whether or not it should be a local option or not. In fact, I served on the House Municipal and County Committee that went over RSA 32 and some of the local options that are available. So you can vote this up or down. It's up to you. I'll probably be voting for the article, and the reason is when I served on budget committee in my town, we saw the elected budget committee as an extra set of eyes on the budgets, town and school district budget, going through them line item by line item. And what would happen is, sometimes as you're going through line item by line item, the electricity costs could be going up over a year while fuel costs are going down. Health insurance costs could be going up while liability insurance costs could be going down. And what we would consistently find on the town budget was that the town manager would take everything that was going down and he would level fund it at the same amount, but anything that was going up would go up. And so we noticed over time in my town that even with the voters turning down the budget and just going to the default budget every year, over 10 years, that the town budget went from less than 17 million to over 22 million without the voters ever approving an increase. So having the budget committee, elected budget committee, who are answerable to the voters, I feel like that's a good idea. And I think that the budget committee has done very professional work this year and has worked very hard going over the $96 million budget. That is, if all the warrant articles pass, $27,492 per year per student. That's a very, very large expense. Times 3,500 students, that's a lot of money, over $98 million altogether. And I want to thank the unpaid volunteers for doing all that extra work, and I trust the people that we have to do that. And if there's an individual that the voters don't think is doing the job or is unprofessional, that they're welcome to vote in April to change that individual. But I think that just having an extra set of eyes on the budget is a good idea.
That's my job.
Hi there. Anthony Santoriello, 5 Heartwood Drive. And I am a new member of the Budget Committee this year, and I can attest what they all say is very true. There is a lot to learn. So specifically, I got really interested actually in the default budget when Matt had shared his calculation, and I've only just started really digging into that, requesting default budget calculations from different school districts. And what I did actually find, I think because specifically the Department of Revenue Administration doesn't audit these, there's very inconsistent application of the law across districts. For example, here in Merrimack, we never see the removal of one-time expenditures from the operating budget itself, only warrant articles. If you look right next door at Hudson, at the Hudson School District, this very year, they have a longer list of line items that they're backing out from actual account line items than they do from warrant articles. And I know that, for example, trying to go back and look at history, I know last year, I think when Matt was talking about what is a one-time expenditure, which is what you're supposed to back out of default budget calculations, he used the example of like a truck purchase or a vehicle purchase as something that would not be considered a one-time expenditure. And if you look again at this year's default budget calculation for Hudson, they do in fact have a vehicle on there, and it is listed as a one-time expenditure that is removed. So I'm not saying that there's something terrible necessarily going on in Merrimack, but what I have found, having started the investigation, and I plan to continue to learn more about this topic, the law is not being consistently applied in different districts, including ours. And that's all.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen Mortimer, 5 Everest Drive. There's been a lot of talk about transparency. I guess it's legal, but I think it sounds a little strange. 2 of the members on the Budget Committee are members that signed the citizens' petition to give them full control. And interestingly enough, right, that's a little weird, right? Also interesting, it's the 2 that are famous for saying no vacancy and asking for donations. It's the ones that wanted to throw the budget books on the floor. It's the same 2 people that have derailed this entire budget process for the other people that actually wanted to do the work. Also interested, there's been a lot of talk on the forum. Other members on the committee have publicly said in the town forum they don't support the actions of their own 2 board members. So this seems like a rogue action to try and take control. So I'm against it.
Chuck Mower, 4 Depot Street. I think it's important that we understand when we are conducting serious and sober business on the part of the town, that we be able to distinguish the difference between honest brokers and deceivers. And this article is a form of deceit to get, by some surreptitious means, what they can't get in an honest, level playing field debate. We pay a considerable amount of money to our professionals And I will tell you that I have never seen anything except professionalism from our superintendency and our leadership teams and those that build the budget from the bottom up and make a recommendation to the school board and thus to the budget committee. I've been on the budget committee a number of years. I might even be a senior member by now. And I couldn't possibly be more comfortable in taking the recommendation of paid professionals that have distinguished themselves over many years in giving us the right information, always open to questioning, always coming forward with help and support in proposing a budget for the town of Merrimack. I can't imagine what mischief and what ill-conceived results would come from tampering with something like this. And you would see it across the state. It wouldn't be very long before the legislature didn't put up with this kind of thing where school districts were getting out of line with doing default budgets. And again, the default budget is something that is complicated. There's absolutely no need whatsoever to engage in this kind of shenanigans.
Richard Foote, 129 Indian Rock Road. So my question is I don't know how the school or the board comes up with everything, and that's not my question. My question is that every town is different as far as what's spent per student. You know, what does this town spend this much, this town spends that much. The big question is what does the town get for their bucks? You know, Merrimack was 27 grand per student, I think they said. I think Bedford's somewhat less. So question mark is where does Merrimack stand as far as where they're standing in the state is? Merrimack spends 27 grand. Is Merrimack students the best in the state, the worst in the state, somewhere in the middle? Where do they stand as opposed to Bedford or Hudson or any other town in the state? Where do they kind of stand as far as that goes for what we're getting for our 27 grand a student?
We're talking about Article 5.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you talk about that, his numbers come in, same thing. You know, whether we're going to spend the money or not.
Thank you.
So I'd ask. Thank you.
Article 5, yeah, goodbye. Shut up. That is Foot, Bill Foot's brother. Yeah, Dick Foot. This Shelley.
Thank you. I'd just like to let Mr. Mower of the Budget Committee know that this is adopting the provisions of RSA 4014. This is not shenanigans. It is a law. There's no shenanigans. It's just a law. Thank you.
Please, everyone. Thank you.
Chuck Moore, 4 Depot Street. Again, I'm the town historian. I remember when somebody said, "I'm just a mom. I'm not with the Christian Coalition." This is just continued deceit on the part of people who have never been able to get what they want from decent people, so they have to do something indecent.
Hello, I'm Ashley DePro, and I would like to mention that there are only 4 districts in the state of New Hampshire that have budget committees calculate their default budget, and of those, more than half of them are cooperative districts, which means we'd be in the vast minority of districts who have found it appropriate to allow this. And I would also like to disagree with an earlier comment about someone being professional, because I don't think motioning to throw your budget book on the floor is very professional. We should leave calculating the default budget to the experts who have been trained and have the expertise to calculate these numbers. And that's all I have.
Joanne Grobecker, 27 Craig Drive. And so Ashley kind of covered it, but the man in the orange shirt had asked how we compare to other towns, and that's a really good question, especially when it comes to something as important as the budget. The default is calculated based on interpretation of legal statute. Like Shelley had said, it's a law and you interpret it. Only 4 towns have a budget committee calculate the default, and that's because they're part of co-op districts. And we're not. Merrimack is 1 town. We have 1 school district. This would be a very rare and uncommon thing to do.
Timothy Tenhay, 5 Windy Hollow Circle. I know there's someone behind me who's already spoken. This is getting very degrading in the conversation. I call the question.
Do you have anything addition to add? No, thank you. All right. So, there's no other discussion. Article 5 will move as printed. Right? That's right. All right. Article 6. Is the petitioner here? Hold on a sec. Are we all set? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to move Article 6 to the ballot.
As printed?
As printed.
Do I have a second? Rosemary? Rosemary, got it. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cinda Guayumi, 22 Ministerial Drive. Dear Merrimack neighbors, first I would like to take a moment to recognize and express my sincere gratitude to those members of the Budget Committee who have diligently and selfishly served our community this year. Your commitment and hard work have not gone unnoticed, and I truly appreciate all that you have done. Thank you. For those of you who may not know me, I've had the privilege of serving this great town in various capacities. I've served on both the Budget Committee and the School Board for a total of 11 years, and at one point I had the honor of chairing both committees. I've lived in Merrimack for 18 years, and my husband and I have raised our 2 children in this fine town. In the past, I have been a strong supporter of the Budget Committee. Even when others proposed eliminating it in the past, I believed it was a valuable part of our community. It provided an opportunity for residents to become involved and gave our citizens transparency regarding the budget. It also served as a stepping stone, encouraging volunteer and the ability to contribute in other areas. As I did when I ran for the school board many years ago. However, my perspective has changed. What we witnessed this year on the Budget Committee was frankly a circus. The committee became a target for individuals with extreme political views, partisan agendas that were elected last year. Throughout this season, I heard elected officials ask if it was possible to put a no vacancy sign up for families who needed special education services. Let me make this clear. The district has federally mandated obligations to provide a free and appropriate public education to all students. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is dangerous. We also saw members of the committee accuse administration of teaching anti-racism and critical race theory. This is not part of their purview. This was followed by the bizarre spectacle of committee members motioning to throw budget books on the floor, as you've heard earlier this evening, and then voting to do so. They even spent time debating a homemade spreadsheet instead of using the official budget documentation. It didn't stop there. Some of these same partisan extremists signed a petition to control the default budget, which we just heard on, and that is what raised my concerns. This has become different than how it has been in all of the years that I've lived here. It's now becoming a weapon and a tool to take advantage of things that may be against our committee and our schools. If you vote in favor to move this warrant to the ballot, I ask so that the community can vote on this too. Thank you all for your time and attention this evening.
Thank you. We are now discussing Article 6.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Rosemary Rung. I live at 21 Ministerial Drive, and I have lived in Merrimack with my husband since 1983, and we raised our 3 children here. So when we moved here, the town was under a board of selectmen and a school board, and I would have to defer to the town historian to find out how long it's been that we've had a town council. But at that time, when the town did move to a town council, that got rid of the budget committee as we knew it then. And because of the passion of the late Dr. Norman Phillips, we maintained the school budget committee. It wasn't really a strong consensus by the community, but we did maintain the school budget committee. And what we found now through the 20 years or so that we've had the town council without the budget committee, they've operated very well. The community's always supported the budget that the town councils put forward, although last year it did go to default. But the town has done a wonderful job bringing forth their budget. And I think it's time for the school board to adopt that model, where the school board is responsible for bringing the budget to the voters, not the budget committee. First of all, the advantage to that is that, and I have served on the budget committee, is that the school board receives the budget from administration, and then it goes through the rounds of meeting with department heads, school administration, district administration, to modify the budget to what the school board believes the community can afford and would support. And then it goes through the same redundancy with the budget committee. So there's a lot of time and money that's spent on redundancy. So I believe with Article 6 passing, the school board already has full transparency and communication with the community. All of their budget meetings are public meetings. And I believe that the community should just be presented with their budget rather than having it go through the budget committee. So I urge all the voters to support Article 6 on Election Day. Thank you.
My name is Mackenzie Murphy. I live on 20 Brenda Lane here in Merrimack. I would like to say that I've served on this budget committee and served the town of Merrimack for about 6 years now. I'm on year 7. I've always believed in the role of the budget committee. I think it's extremely important. However, when there are proposals to cut more than $5 million, more than $6 million, that's a cut to our teachers, it's a cut to our students, it's a cut to our programs. We talk about the rankings in this town, and the only way to improve our rankings is to put the funds forward in order to support our students and the work that our teachers do to educate our students so that we raise them in Merrimack so that they give back to our town, just as I have, as someone that grew up in this town. And I've been proud to serve on the budget committee. However, when people on our budget committee have voted to not support special education students, by FAPE, we are required by law to provide a free and appropriate public education to our special education students. I'm proud to have gone through the special education program here at Merrimack. I was on an IEP, and I'm proud to now serve on the town council, to serve on the budget committee, and to give back to my town. However, I think it's time. There's people on the budget committee that are proposing these cuts, And as much as I've always believed in the Budget Committee, I think that the school board and our administration is trained in the budget, and I think that we need to have our trust and our faith in them. So I would vote to support to cut the Budget Committee. Thank you.
Hello, I am Jennifer Bull. I live at 5 Independence Drive. The question I have is, considering this petition warrant article and petition warrant article 5, do we know what the legal ramifications are if both articles pass?
If this article passes, then the Budget Committee would be rescinded. So if the other one, if they both pass, there still wouldn't be a Budget Committee.
Okay, so it would cancel out the other one then. Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Jennifer McCormick, 34 Kramer Hill Road. I've been on the Budget Committee for 3 years, and I very much oppose this particular item. I can't think of the word. I think that having a Budget Committee provides transparency and accountability, and it gives the citizens of Merrimack an opportunity to have community member involvement in the process that we go through in order to determine the final budget that will make it to the ballot. I think it's a conflict of interest for the school board to be solely responsible for the budget, considering they have initiatives that they are trying to push through and may in fact be more committed to those initiatives at times than they are to fiscal responsibility around what it might cost to push those initiatives forward. My colleague over here, Joanne Grobecker, so nicely said it. Right now we have a three-way checks and balances. We have the Budget Committee, we have the school board, and we have the voters. And I think that we should keep it that way because it holds everyone accountable. And it allows our residents to have a voice.
Hi, Marie Berry, 50 Marty Drive, member of the Budget Committee, first-year member actually, 40-year member of a resident of Merrimack, 25 years teaching at Merrimack High School. I feel that the Budget Committee has been a valuable part of the process, and I am opposed to this proposal. I think it's, as a voter, a taxpayer, I think it's a good thing when you have lots of sets of eyes on things, and I know myself, I probably spent 100, 150 hours examining the budget, closely looking at it, and seeing what I could find for efficiencies. I did find some, but not nearly what I thought people might expect. And I would like to just address a comment about the large cut that apparently some people were proposing. I think it was a minority, a very small minority, that wanted to cut the number that was suggested. And one of the checks and balances is the fact that the Budget Committee is 12, 13 people, and such a large cut was not supported by even close to a majority of the committee. So I think the fact that the committee is large, and it does allow community members to look into the budget and see what's there and share their findings with the townspeople, I don't think that's a bad thing. And Obviously, as we see the result tonight, people are supporting the budget to go forward as suggested by the school board. And I would say, for my part, there were a few things that I found, but it wasn't a huge chunk of money, like some people might think. A lot of the school budget is fixed costs, and they have to be paid, and there's not any way around that. But anyway, I do not support eliminating the budget committee. Thank you.
Karen Mortimer, 5 Everest Drive. I just wanted to point out that nobody up on the school board has ever posted any political extreme views. They haven't claimed that the school teaches racism like our board members have. I have a problem putting faith in someone who stands here, actually testified in Concord, that our school is creating racist kids. Like that's bizarre to me. So I just want to point out that there's no controversy here, and this has been filled with controversy. Marie never got a chance to talk about the cuts that she wanted to because the other guys were playing games. So I would just point out it's just a matter of respect for the process. So thank you.
Hold on a sec. There's a couple people behind you who have not spoken yet.
I'm sorry.
Cinda Guayumi, 22 Ministerial Drive. I just wanted to add that the town has been functioning without the budget committee for many, many years. So this would be similar and in line with their approach. Thank you.
Hi, Tyrell Borowitz, 7 Timber Lane. I went to one of the budget committee meetings, and I saw some of the stuff that was talked about earlier, and you could tell there was a lot of tension, and it was stressful, and it was heated. But I just feel like I need to say that's part of this great system that we call democracy, right? I mean, democracy is not nice, it's messy, and it's stressful, and it sucks sometimes because people get in arguments, and it's very personal. But we need to have, it's part of being in a community. You're not going to agree with your neighbor all the time, or ever sometimes. If you see an issue with the way things are done, it allows you the chance to get into the mix and see for yourself what is happening and be part of it. And a lot of us are here because of what we saw in those meetings, and we feel very strongly about what's going on. We're taking part, we're participating. So I don't know, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Marie Berry. I would just like to say that I think the personal attacks that have been leveled against the committee, people on the committee have done this, people on the committee have done that, is unfair to the committee as a whole. That's all I'm going to say.
I think it's good.
Gina Groff, 29 Doll Road. As a current member of the Budget Committee and having been a member for the past 3 or 4 years, I would just like to urge everyone, whether or not we have a Budget Committee next year or not, whatever their duties are, which I think is a conflict of interest if we're voting both on the operating budget and the default, I'll just say that. Please stay this involved with what's going on in the school district, with the programs that we have, with what is being voted on, whether or not we sit here and discuss. Please, I love all of, whether it's, been because of negative things or positive things, please keep shining a spotlight on education, what our amazing educators do every single day, the support and the resources that they need and they continue to have and they will need in the future. So please, whatever you decide on Article 6, I implore everyone to please stay involved and to look at that video that administration put out about the district budget. There was 35 views, I think, earlier today. And if you're really that interested, please view the video. It really is enlightening. But thank you for the opportunity to serve over the past 4 years. I will not be again this year, but thank you to everyone. And good or bad, thank you for the wonderful turnout and for supporting the town of Merrimack.
Molly Azatia, 7 Chestnut Circle. It's getting late. My brain is a little fried. I just wanted to say that with this article, people asked for transparency, and our superintendent staff gave that transparency. If people didn't reach out to look at the videos and to witness what the whole educational basis of our budget is on, shame on you. We've also put forth test scores. I know right on TFS Facebook page are all of our test scores. There is your transparency. We can't doctor those. They come generated to us because of the programs that we use for this day and age. We cannot teach anymore like we're in the 80s. We've gone through a pandemic. We are in, I don't even know what to call it anymore because I was told I was from the 1900s the other day, and I'm really still upset about that. But we have to move forward. We have to keep moving forward. We can't take 10 steps back. And if you want transparency, then you can't have 7 different committees running and arguing and fighting over what the children, our educators, and our staff need. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Gail Hoisington. I'm at 65A Amherst Road, Merrimack. I will keep this short. I love the Merrimack schools. My son is having a great experience. I am concerned about what has happened at the school budget committee. I'm concerned that people are saying the calls for accountability for people's ableism is degrading. That is being held accountable for your actions. And if you think that's degrading, then you have a lot to learn about accountability, and I'm not backing down.
Hurry up, Tim's behind you.
Hopefully I'm the last one. Jennifer McCormick, 34 Kramer Hill Road. Oh, not the last one. All right. I really appreciate the gentleman who stood up and talked about democracy being messy and not always fun. This budget committee season was messy and not always fun. But I do think that this year I have seen more transparency through the process that this budget committee illustrated than I have seen in the last 5 years that I've been paying attention to local politics. I think that we have some new blood on the budget committee this year, and although there is a steep learning curve and people make mistakes and say things that, that may be hurtful to others or may be taken out of context and spun in many different ways to fling mud at one another. But I also think that it's important to have different points of view because 13 people on the Budget Committee represent a cross-section of our community. I would rather have 13 people from our community who represent different points of view of our citizens than only 5 people on the school board who would have total control over all of the spending and all of the money that we are forced to take out of our pockets to put forward. People like to say that local politics is nonpartisan. They like to pretend that local government is nonpartisan, but the reality is that people are entrenched in their beliefs. The hope is that they will come to the table and have reasonable conversation, and that they will do thoughtful and constructive analysis of the information put forth before them, that they will engage in discussion with one another and make recommendations that can be discussed among the committee. And I think that we need more of that, not less of that. More transparency, not less. This year's budget committee was a bit of a circus, for sure. But I think it's different because in the past I have seen the budget committee rubber stamp the school board's recommended budget. And this year we actually had members of the committee who took the time to do the analysis and to ask pointed questions. What's troubling to me is that some members of the budget committee blocked the committee as a whole from any review or consideration or discussion or analysis of comparative historical data of line-by-line expenditures. And the majority voted to approve the proposed budget number without engaging in reasonable discussion, debate, review of minority members' questions, analysis, or recommendations. I also think there was finishing up. I also think, having experienced it, that there was an orchestrated effort to block committee members from conducting a proper analysis. There was stonewalling on the answering of pointed questions.
Wrap up,
and
please.
Coordinating with specific committee members to force a motion to approve the school board's proposed budget before the committee had conducted proper discussion.
Thank you. Your time is up.
In the final work session.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Timothy Tenhay, 5 Windy Hollow Circle. I was part of the team that drove the town charter and eliminated the budget committee on the town side. At that time, I presented a lot of information as to why it was an appropriate thing to do to remove the budget committee. Tried to do it with the school as well, and that didn't happen. Some of the things that I had mentioned during that time that would happen in town, and some of the issues that would pop up, like what we saw this year with the budget committee, was all mentioned at that time as a reason to why you might want to consider not having a budget committee. The reality is that the school board presents a budget and then gives it to the budget committee. It's the budget committee's budget, and they process it, they do the due diligence, and they come up with a number and present it to the voters, and the voters vote on the budget. The school board then gets handed that dollar amount and is asked to execute with the school administration against that budget. Without a budget committee, the school board's budget comes to the voters. They're responsible for it. They have to execute against it, and they therefore have to live with what they suggested and what the voters approved, and they have to deal with it every day. And I think that's a more appropriate way of handling things. Let's hold them accountable as we think that we should. Now, if there's a concern that there's not enough eyes on the budget, well, there's no reason at all why you can't have a 7-member school board. Bring diversity to your school board. That's the choice, that's the right choice to make here. Eliminate the budget committee, expand the school board next year, and then you'll get that transparency, you'll get that accountability, and you'll get the viewpoints of a large community that we are now. Thank you.
Hi, Karen Mortimer, 5 Everest Drive. I just had to say that ableism is not messy, it's not democracy, it's ableism. So when you ask if you can reduce the number of students with disabilities in a school district, you're being an ableist. Ableism has no business on a school town elected board, period.
My name is Mackenzie Murphy. Again, I'm still at 20 Brenda Lane in Merrimack. I'd like to build off of what I had said prior, and having heard a few other people's comments, I think one thing that I really respect.
Hold on one second. Can we quiet down? Thank you.
One thing that I really respect, being able to serve on a town committee, is that our town committees are supposed to be nonpartisan positions. I think, this past year, as a lot of people said, it was a hard year. People don't always agree with one another, and I think that's part of being on a town board. There were a few people that I think I wish I had had the opportunity to be able to hear more from, that had put in a lot of time and hours of work into the budget, that were new to the group this year. And I think for me, what was the hard part is that sometimes with the unrealistic cuts that I believe had been proposed, it had gotten to a point one night where it was like 11 o'clock at night and we were all exhausted. And when there's constant hours spent on trying to cut $5 to $6 million out of the budget, it gets to a point where we had met as each of the budget committee members with each of the schools to talk about their needs instead of their wants. And people such as Marie Berry, people such as Shannon Rand had put the time in. They had a lot of different questions. They were trying to understand the process. And I think, again, I'm a person who will work with everyone. And I think that's crucially and critically important. And I appreciate the time that those two new members put in. It was a pleasure working with them, honestly. Again, we didn't always agree. But I just would like to put out there that, again, it was critically important. We spent the time with the district administrators to get to know one another, to hear the needs of their students. And I really appreciate the time that, and I'm going to point out those two committee members in specific because, again, we didn't always agree and we didn't always see eye to eye, but it's a time that's put in to spend to understand, to serve our students, to serve our educators, and to serve our town. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gloria Cole. I live at 21 Breck Drive. I don't know if I need to say my address or not, but I did not plan to speak at this meeting, and there's a lot of reasons why I did not plan to speak at this meeting. I've attended every school budget committee meeting. My son has severe special needs. My son started in the Merrimack School District in the MEEP program. My son will probably never leave our home. However, my son is now out of district in the Bedford school system. He is in the New England Center for Children's private school program in the Bedford school system. I will look around this room. I know you probably can't hear me. There's a lot of para-educators here and teachers. I can't thank you enough. I understand why you do what you do. I do. My son, I can't tell you the amount of nights I have not slept since my son was 4 years old. But what I will tell you is I will not stand in this room, and I have severe fear of retaliation, okay? And that's a very strong word that I don't use easily, okay? That's why I didn't plan to speak here. But I will not sit in this room and on social media and watch people be attacked for their views, for questioning things that they have every right to question in this school budget. The people on this committee were elected. They were not appointed, they were elected, and they were elected to look into the budget. This is no disparity on the school board. You do what you do. I understand in the back, you want what is best for our students. However, there is a woeful neglect of our taxpayers in these school budget discussions. I don't have a college degree. However, I feel like I'm a very pragmatic person, and I give everyone the opportunity to prove me wrong. I will listen to anyone. I will listen to anyone that is willing to speak to me. And I look at what has happened to this budget committee over the last year, and I am utterly disgusted with the way this town has treated the elected members of this budget committee for doing what they were elected to do. Look at the budget. Ask questions. We have to pay taxes. My son is a special needs student. I understand, Sped, you can go ahead and rush me along, and I know you're
Please
going
wrap
to do
up.
that, and that's fine. But
you.
I have every right to speak my mind. Listening. Brian Trant,
Excuse me,
you're one
no,
of the
no.
nicest people
You
I've
are
ever
not
met
getting-
in my life. Anthony
Ma'am,
Santoriello,
ma'am.
Marie Barry, Jenny
Ma'am.
McCormick, good people that are doing the
Ma'am.
right thing. Shannon Rand, thank you all,
Ma'am.
and all of you for volunteering
Do I
your
need
time.
to have you removed? Thank you.
Jennifer Greenwood, $5 Road. I just want to say that I believe keeping the school committee separate from the budget. I think it's very important that there's checks and balances, as Jennifer has stated before. Just like any private organization, when you are running projects or any type of operations, you need to abide by a budget, and that budget needs to be approved by a separate committee. So I stand by keeping this committee here, and thank you all for your time. I know that some people are new, some people have been there forever, but it's good to ask questions, and it's very important for our entire town. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, Finley Rothaus, 14 Kittredge Lane. If it's not too soon, I'd like to call the question.
You just have one person behind you, and then we'll call the question after.
Rachel Papke, 67 Tinker Road. I've served on this budget committee, I believe this is my third year now. And the past couple of years have been a little tumultuous, and that's okay, right? Because that's part of the process. But what is hard in these past couple of years, especially this year, is that there is a process that this committee has followed for many years. We followed that process this year. We got to meet in subcommittees and talk with the administrators, talk with the department heads, ask many questions. We got to do that as part of our public budget committee meetings as well. It's hard when sometimes there are, the facts are stated, data is presented, and it seems like it is not being utilized in a way that is constructive to the conversation. What is hard about building a budget of, we're talking about $96 million here. What is hard about building a budget in 3 months is that this committee, year after year after year, does not live it day to day. They are not in the schools. They are not seeing the student needs. They are not seeing the teacher and the staff needs. They can't go and answer questions off the top of their heads, and that's part of that transparency gathering, right? We get to ask those questions and get answers, but we don't get to live the day-to-day that makes up the basis of that $96 million. We leave that to our educators, to our department heads, to our administrators that are talking with those people day-to-day, that are seeing our student needs. Numbers are really easy to look at on a spreadsheet, but it's really taking those numbers and understanding what is behind those numbers, and that is our students' needs. That is paying our staff a competitive wage and offering benefits that are competitive in other districts. So yes, it is difficult to have conversations, but I think it is even more difficult when that basis is not being considered as part of that discussion. So I just wanted to offer that out, that this committee does have a process. We do follow it. There is plenty of time for questions and transparency, but it's really hard, I think, for this committee to not live that day-to-day in order to build that bottom line number. Thank you.
Okay. Just a working amendment. Article 6 is moving to the ballot as printed. Reminder, everyone, Election Day, when you get to vote on all these, is April 8th at your polling place. I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.